Coming up today, we check out some remote parts of the Wheatbelt. We get there in an EV and we check out some of the sites. Welcome back to the channel everyone. So today we're going to hop in the EV and check out some of the spots in the remote parts of the Wheatbelt of Western Australia. Now you can go ahead and skip to whatever chapter you like because I've divvied it all up and you can have a look and go and see what interests you. Now some of these spots that I'm looking at today I looked at recently. Now there's many places you can go and this is by no means an exhaustive look today. So if you follow my channel you'll notice that on some of the trips I quite often go and visit some different places. So yeah, that's what we'll be doing today anyway, just looking at a few places. It really is a fantastic part of Australia and certainly Western Australia to visit. There's just so many great things you can see. So where is the Wheatbelt? Well, here's a little bit of a map. You can see Perth is on the left hand side there and it stretches for 158,000 or thereabouts square kilometers. So around about this region here between Perth and where I am there in the goldfields. So quite a few hundred kilometers of roads you can go through there. And there's plenty of things that you can obviously go and have a look at. Now the roads are generally pretty good in the region, I have to say. And also mobile phone coverage is also very good. And I think one of the main reasons for that is because there's a lot of farmers in the region, of course, and you know, if there's a medical emergency, they need to be able to get to them quickly. And the same with the mobile phone coverage, which I've just put a map up here. You can see there's the coverage with Telstra, which is the most popular network. And you see it covers pretty much most of the area there. Now if you're going to travel this region, I would recommend you get a proper map as well, just in case, of course, that the mobile network is down or if you're in a sort of black spot. Now HEMA is one company that I use and they've got some great maps. I do like using their maps. I think they're really good, and they also show in detail some of the places you can go. Another one I use is this one here called Roads and Tracks of Western Australia, made by a company called Quality Publishing Australia, which is a West Australian company, and they've got a lot of information. You can see here they even have information about the different attractions available, and they too have them on the map. So they'll have a little bit of information and you can see what facilities are available at the attractions. So yeah, recommend you definitely have a map as well to supplement your mobile network, you know, the internet, to supplement your internet connection. The first place we're going to look at here is not far from Moorine Rock. So I've stayed several times at this beautiful little farm retreat not far from Moorine Rock. Now Moorine Rock's about 20 kilometers from the little town of Southern Cross. Now this is an AirBNB which I frequently stay at, and yeah, they do farm rescue, the couple there. It's a really great place to stay and you get the opportunity to interact with some animals like this lovely little kangaroo here. You can help feed them and it's quite a nice little place you can stay. I'll put a link in the description so you can check it out. But anyway, we're going to be looking at Kent Road, which passes, it's sort of on the way to Merredin if you want to get off the highway. Passes through some great farmland, and depending on what time of year you go, you can see some beautiful crops. So obviously that would be in winter and into spring. Sometimes obviously it's canola, other times of the year it might be a different crop. This is from earlier on this year and you can see beautiful canola. It was a really fantastic year for canola. Just the colours are just so vibrant, and you've got some really nice roads there that you can drive through. So yeah, if you want to get off the highway and you want to travel some different roads on the way to Merredin, well I recommend you definitely check out this area. It's just fantastic. Okay, the next area we're going to look at is called Daadenning Creek. Now this road is south of Kellerberrin, which is obviously also on the main highway there, the Great Eastern Highway between Perth and Kalgoorlie. You can see it's sort of like southeast of Kellerberrin there. And anyway, to get to this particular road, you need to go south of the highway. So going off at Doodlakine is a tiny little speck of a location on Doodlakine South Road there, and then you can link up here with the Daadenning Creek Road. So this was an area which I also stay at. There's a fabulous AirBNB also along this road. So earlier on this year they had wheat. They also do have canola in this area too, but as you know, farmers rotate the crops for, you know, to keep the nutrients in the soil at a good level. They have to rotate the crops every year. So yeah, it was quite rainy when I went through. You might have seen some of this footage in one of my earlier videos, and it was quite stormy. The roads, like I said, are pretty good. Even the unsealed roads, there would really need to be a lot of rain for the roads to be impassable. So you can quite easily do it, even in the two-wheel drive, like the Atto 3 here. Now you can see once the sun came out in the late afternoon, gee, it was a spectacular place to go. Now here's the little AirBNB I was telling you about, which is about 30 kilometers south of Kellerberrin. I'll put a link in the description for this place too. Really nice place to stay, very quiet, and just sit right in the middle of the farming fields. Now the next place we're going to look at is a nature reserve, which is also not far from Kellerberrin. So you can see that's about 42 kilometers, and that was something which I also visited not that long ago. I went right at the end of spring, and amazingly there was still some flowers that I saw there. Now it's quite a little trip to get into the reserve, another dirt road. But again, it's fine with a two-wheel drive as well. Obviously an all-wheel drive would be better. But just check out some of the beautiful flowers here. So this is the Gardner Nature Reserve. And yeah, they just had some absolutely spectacular flowers. I was amazed at, for going there just a few weeks ago, there was still a lot of flowers in flower. So really nice place to go. Let's have a little look at it from the air, and then we'll get back down to ground level and look at a few more flowers. So yeah, quite a remote spot, but a beautiful place to go for a hike. Now, I just wanted to quickly show you the new charges which are now open at Northam. So there's now 4 sets of charges featuring Perth and Kalgoorlie, which is really fabulous. So we'll just have a very quick look at them here. Now they're not far from the visitors centre, and there's also a nice cafe there as well which you can go visit. So they're in a really great location. There you go, you can see right near the Avon River there, and it's also right near, like I said, a little cafe, and a couple of cafes actually, and of course the visitors station. So great spot for some charges. I topped up there on my recent trip. Now this is sort of roughly the route that I took on the way back from Perth. So I stayed in the little place of Baldivis, and I decided to make a trip another way which I hadn't been before. I decided to go through Brookton and Corrigin on my way back to go to Merredin. Now the first part of the trip here, you can see, takes me through the state forest, and it's actually on the Brookton highway ending up at Brookton itself. So for this part of the trip you can join me in real time because I did a little bit of recording regarding it. So I'm slowly leaving to go on my trip, this rather nice trip I think it will be today. So I'm staying in Baldivis. I'm just leaving the AirBNB now. It's quite early in the morning, it's before 7 o'clock. And I'm really looking forward to this trip through a remote part of the Wheatbelt. So let's get this trip underway. Okay, so we're now on the Brookton highway heading towards Brookton. So this is about 100 k's, a little bit more than 100 k's from the turnoff, which is sort of in Armadale. So if you know the suburb of Armadale, just before the hills in Perth. And yeah, it's going to be quite a nice drive along here. Lots of forest, lots of trees once you get out of the hills, or even in the hills there's a lot of trees as well. So these are the chargers here in Brookton. Okay, so here I am in Brookton. Now I can't recall ever coming to this town before. It's only a small town. But anyway, we'll go for a walk before it gets too hot. Zoe's hanging out for a walk as usual. And yes, your typical charger with nothing else here. So no shade, no rubbish bin, no nothing. So let's hope they improve that all in years to come. So like I said, I don't think I've ever been to this town before, or if I did, it was a long time ago. So I don't know what's nearby, but anyway, I'll go for a little walk. So the train station's just a couple of 100 meters down from where the chargers are, and there are toilets as well, so it's not too far to go. And there's also an IGA shopping centre as well, so they're all, you know, post office, little deli, so all within a few 100 meters of the chargers, so it's not a bad location. Okay, so I've charged to 100. Let's go and have a look at the Lookout now, which is a few kilometers back on the highway the way I came. I've got plenty of time, so let's go and have a look. So the Brookton Lookout is only about 3 kilometers from Brookton, and it's on the western side of the Brookton Highway. And it's a dirt road going up there, but again, you don't need a 4-wheel drive really to do it. If you just go very easy, it's pretty good to go in a 2-wheel drive. And of course, you've got views over the farming land. I imagine earlier on in the year in winter, it would look nice and green from up here, but you know, quite dry when I did it. Now we're going to go head to Corrigin, which is about 90 kilometers and roughly an hour to get there. And just be wary, when I filmed this in November, there was some roadworks which was in the first part of the trip, so just be wary of that. Let's have a look at the drive now to Corrigin. Now as we approach Corrigin, you might want to check out the Corrigin Wildflower Drive. Now it's just opposite the dog cemetery, which I've shown on another video I've done, so I won't show that here today. And again, I was lucky enough to see some lovely wildflowers along this wildflower drive, about 5 kilometers on the western side before you get to Corrigin. Now in addition to the wildflowers, they've also got like this little lookout tower you can go up. It's not very high, but yeah, you can have a look at the views around here, and just the drive itself is very nice. Now if you're not from Western Australia, or if you're just a city slicker who lives in Perth and you wonder where Corrigin is, not far from Daadenning, and you can see here it's sort of southwest of Merredin and Bruce Rock. Now in the town of Corrigin itself, they also have another lookout, the Memorial Lookout, where they have some more memorials to obviously people who fought in the wars. They've got a Turkish gun here too, which is sort of mounted if you want to have a look at that. And there's plenty of room to park up there as well. There's the actual Anzac Memorial. And here's a little look at the town, the tiny little town of Corrigin. So that's another nice vantage spot you can check out. They don't have any fast chargers at Corrigin, but they do have this great Rotary park if you need to go to the toilet, or you want to have your kids run around, or your pets. And if they ever were going to build some fast chargers, I think they'd probably build them here, because there is like a roadside rest stop there. Alright, anyway, from there we drive the last little bit to Merredin. So it's roughly just over an hour to get there. And this is sort of roughly the road that we took also to get there. Now, quite small roads on this little particular route. In fact, some of the roads you'll see in a minute are just single lane. But nevertheless, it was a very nice drive. Yeah, you can see the roads there on my GPS. And yeah, you can see some more farming land. Very little traffic too along here. Now I passed through a couple of tiny locations. Firstly, Bilbarin, and then a little place called Babakin. So these are very, very small places, not much facilities there. So there, like I said, there's no charges at Corrigin, but if you charge in Brookton, you'll have plenty of charge to get you back on the highway to Merredin. Now we'll have a quick look at the Merredin charges and update you on how they're going. And I made it to Merredin and I'm down to 26%. So now I'm going to head home to Kalgoorlie. If you haven't seen the new redevelopment, this is what it looks like. So they've done a lot of work. That's the toilets there now. And there's a nice park here you can walk, have a picnic. And of course you've got all the shops, bottle shops, bank. Pretty much everything you need. There's a cafe down there, there's a cafe here. And you know, you might have seen in previous videos, there's plenty to do here in Merredin. But I've got a dog here who wants to walk, so let's go for a walk. Okay, so from Merredin I went to Southern Cross, which is only just over an hour away. So I didn't put very much in at Merredin, deciding to just top up to full in Southern Cross, ready for the last leg home. So of course, depending on what sort of EV you got, you may choose to charge in Merredin or Southern Cross. At this stage, with the Atto being only a 60 kilowatt battery, I normally have to charge at both locations to make sure I get home safely. And just a word of warning, they're still doing the roadworks just to the east of Southern Cross. You can have a look at a little bit of it here. Now that wrapped up my trip through some of the remote parts of the Wheatbelt. This was the last trip I did, but I'm just going to leave you here with a look at the number 7 pumping station. Now this footage here is from a trip I did earlier on in the year, and I called it a pumping station, but the pumping station is long gone there. It's just really the site of it, and you'll see what remains here. Now these pumping stations, of course, were pumping the water from Perth all the way to Kalgoorlie, and they don't actually have as many as they used to have. They only got a few pumping stations now. They've all been electrified, but the history of it and the remembrance of some of the pumping stations still remain. Now this one here, I'll put on the screen how far away it is from Kalgoorlie. Got a nice picnic area you can go to, some information about it, and of course some of the stuff which they use to build the pipeline. You can see some old pipes there, and you can go up here and you can have a look into this old water reservoir, which I have to say is pretty large and quite interesting to look at, both at ground level and from the air. When I put my drone up, you can see it here. It's really quite a huge area, and you could store hundreds of thousands, if not millions of litres of water in there. Now another thing you'll get to see, of course, is the water pipeline itself. So this is part of the Goldfields water scheme, with the like I said, the water's being pumped all the way from Mundaring, which is in the Perth Hills, to reach and supply water not just to Kalgoorlie but to other towns there in the Wheatbelt and the Goldfields. Now you'll be pleased to know the road in here is pretty good. The whole place is only about a kilometre and a half off the highway, and when you actually get there you feel like you're in the middle of nowhere. So it's pretty sort of an interesting place to go for a hike. If you like walking and hiking like we do, then you'll love visiting some of these places, and not just here but the other places also that I mentioned on the episode today. And if you are travelling through this region, or you're interested to see some of the attractions, feel free to go back and have a look at some of the trips I've done, because I do visit several of these places. And for a much more in-depth look, head over to my other travel channel, Finding G-Spots, and there you can see a real in-depth look at most of the places that I go and visit, not just here in Western Australia, but also around Australia and even some places we visited around the world. Alright, that's it for this episode though. Thanks very much. Hope you learned a few more things, and it's coming up to Christmas, so please take care on the roads. There's a lot of traffic. We all want to make it safely out the other side. Anyway, we'll see you with more very soon on Down Under EV Adventures. Bye for now.